So in this video, we're going to release the ASP.NET Core Fasetto Word server to an actual hosted server in the cloud so that we can access it through a website. And then everybody can join up and start signing up, and then we can start adding the chat system. So let's get to it. Okay, so we have the Fasetto Word server application here. So let's just go ahead and build first to make sure it works. And let's also just run this. So I'll just F5 and make sure this thing actually runs. And then we will, the first stage to actually turning this into a website ready for publishing is to produce a runtime, like a self-contained package, if you will. Containing the website. So we just first want to make sure everything still works and runs as expected, basically. So we have the, obviously we don't even have, there's a point, we're pushing this website live, but we don't really have any UI on the front end, but the back end will still work for signing up and things. So that's up and running, and we're happy with that. You know, I've done some testing anyway to make sure this does work. So now to push this live, what we want to do is to what's called publish this in .NET Core. So if I just right click the server folder and click open folder, this is a folder we're in with the CS project of the server. And in the top bar here, just type cmd for open a command. And now in here, we just do .NET publish. And what we should also do here, I guess, is to build in release mode, because that's the one we're going to release at. And also make sure that builds and runs successfully, because that's the thing we're actually going to release. So just jumping back, making sure it spins up. And again, you do a lot more heavy testing than I am here. I'm just basically running the thing. So that's all fine there. We'll come to this bit in a minute, the AWS. So close that down, go back to the previous console window. So in here we type .NET publish, and then you want -R, which stands for the runtime. Now this is the physical machine that this server is going to run on, or this website's going to run on rather. So we're going to run it on a Windows 10 or Windows Server machine in AWS. So we just want it on the Win-X64, so it's a 64-bit Windows. -C for configuration, and we want the release. So you can have debug or release in this case, so I'm going to do release. And then just --output, and then specify a folder relative to the folder we're in here. So for now, I'm just going to type published, just so you can see the folder. And as we hit that, and then while that's running, shouldn't take long, we open this folder, and you should see a published folder appear in here when it's done. And there you go, published folder appeared. This is now done. So that's all there actually is to publishing, believe it or not. That's basically the step of publishing your site ready to now deploy to any web server. So the web server of our choice, or my choice, is going to be the AWS server. I've used Microsoft Azure in the past when it was early, a few years ago. And it was really good interface, really, you know, more modern than AWS. But there was a lot of downtime, a lot of issues with downtime with it. I'm sure it's stabilized now, and I'll probably try it again in future. But for now, I'm just using Amazon's AWS. All you need to think now is this folder that we have, which I'll show you how to run, needs really deploying on a server. And ideally, right now, the most supported is a Windows server. You can run it on Linux and Mac, but nobody uses Mac for servers. So you're left with Linux or Windows. You can deploy it on Linux, and you can run Kestrel, which is the web server this runs on, directly. But again, for this tutorial, I'm just going to show you Windows. So what you really want here, if you don't want to use AWS, is you could ideally do with a physical machine. So if you're renting, you can rent website space, and sometimes they simply offer you things like control panels and single websites that you can publish, and you don't really have control over the computer. So if you're going to go with that option, which is cheaper, you first need to make sure that they actually support ASP.NET Core 2.1, because they will have to set up the machine for you. The way I'm going to do it, though, is to actually do it myself and set up the actual server. So I'm going to take a brand new Amazon web server, just a plain Windows computer effectively in the cloud, and set that up fully and publish this site to it. So you'll see how it's done from start to finish. So let's just get to that. So we have this publish folder, as I mentioned, so I no longer need this window now. I'm not going to republish. I'm happy with that. I also don't really need this open now. That's actually as much code as we are going to do, I think. The only thing I'm just thinking of is the app settings. So we will need to configure this when we are on the other database side. We'll have to actually put this key in, which I won't do on this video, but I will, edit. So the app settings, let's just double check. The publish folder has the app settings, which should be in here. There we go. So we have the app settings. So we can just edit this text file when it's on the server. So I don't need to do that. I just need to remember to edit the app settings. There's nothing else in here to do, so I'll just close that down. We're done with that. Close down all the extra windows. So we have this one, good. Right, so this is the published folder. Now all this is done, all these files are a mixture of, this is really the .NET Core runtime. So this is all the specific Windows 64-bit runtime files. So when you do a publish and you specify a runtime, it packages all the .NET Core runtime. So .NET Core doesn't necessarily need to be installed on the end machine to run. This is now like one big self-contained package. So your application can be deployed in this folder and given to somebody and run on any Windows machine without anything else being installed. So most of this is all, as I mentioned, it's the .NET Core runtime and also your specific references that you have, again, specific to Windows 64-bit, because that's what we specified. And then mixed in with that, you've actually got the ASP.NET Core files. So we've got our views with all the views in there. And we have, whatever other files. Now, in order to start this, the web server, if you will, to like when we've pressed F5 in Visual Studio, you now can double click this exe. And this will do the same thing almost as like pressing F5, it starts the server. So you can see it's figured out you're in a production environment. This is the folder we're in, and it's now listening on this port. So if we were to take this port and open it up in the browser, and just open it up here, and paste the website in, we should see that this hopefully resolves. There we go. And that took a while the first time, simply because it was compiling the Razor views for the very first time when you hit up the website. So that was the slight delay there. Now we hit it again, it's instantaneous. So we're now running our ASP.NET Core website through an exe, just double clicking it. So you could, in theory, deploy this as nothing more than a file on a server, a folder on a server, and just double click this on your server and it's running on port 5000 in this case. But obviously that's not what we're going to do. So now we're going to take that folder. Now you know what the folder is and what it contains and how you typically run it to test first that it actually does work, which is important because sometimes you publish and then when you put it through IIS and host it through something else and map a domain name, if you've never checked in the first place if the website even starts up after publishing, then you're in for a long debugging session when something goes wrong, and it does often go wrong. So now what we want to do is to basically deploy this folder. So as I mentioned, I'm going to use AWS. You don't have to. You can use any Windows machine, any host provider if you have access to a Windows machine, or you can just look for a provider that offers ASP.NET Core 2.1 support. And then typically they should give you a kind of guide that would make sense that what I'm doing here matches what you'd do when they host it for you. So the first thing you do is create an AWS account. And then basically follow these steps. So I'm not going to go through that. That's a simple sign up process. What I will do though is sign into my account. So once you're signed into AWS, you'll be presented with a screen similar to this. Yours won't be black because I have my dark background theme on. We will go to services and EC2 is what we want. And then in here, you can see I've got 3 running instances already. And if we go to instances here, I will see I've got all my websites with specific things on. And obviously these will be blurred out for you on the video because it's sensitive information. But this is just a list of existing servers I have running. You won't have any. So I'm just going to spin up a brand new server to show you. So this would be empty typically, and you would go to launch instance, and then this is where you have a lot of choice and it can be confusing and overwhelming. So unless you have a specific demand, then I wouldn't worry too much. The one I typically go with, I believe, is Windows Server 2016 base. Because I want SQL Server installed, I'm going to pick one with that already on, or you can simply install it yourself, install a version yourself. So I'm just going to scroll through, and I want 2016 or Windows 10. And where are we? 2016 web or standard. So the web, I believe, is cheaper, and Microsoft Windows Server 2016 with SQL Server. Is that the same thing? Data Center Edition, they have the same thing twice there. Oh no, 2017. So I'm going to pick this one here. I want Windows 2000 Server 2016 with SQL Server. So it's already installed for me. I'll also get IIS in that case. So if you weren't going to have the server version of Windows and you're just going to go with, say, Windows 10, then you'll have to install SQL Server that you've seen in my previous videos how to do. And if you go to turn features on or off in the Windows Start menu and enable IIS, which should be in there, and install IIS, they're the two steps you'd have to do if you're not going to run a Windows Server machine. So that's what I'm going to do here, then. Obviously, we've got it already installed. Now we have the option of which to pick, basically. So we can have a micro instance, which the main thing I'm usually bothered about is the network performance. Now, this will grow over time, and we can typically stage up and grow the servers to different sizes. But I know this is going to be used a little bit, so I don't know whether to just go to a moderate speed. So I'm probably just going to pick this, and then we can go to next. The number of instances 1, so we only want one, obviously, server in this case. The network that it's on, the subnet, all this can stay as default. There's nothing special we want to do here. Storage, we've already got 50 gigabyte or gigabit, whatever. Yeah, so 50 gigabyte there, or whatever that is, gigabit. The one that shows on your machine anyway, doesn't really matter. That you're gonna have 50. Then tags, we don't need any. Security group we will set up. So by default now, this allows remote desktoping in to any IP, which importantly we don't want, and SQL remoting in. So we don't really want SQL either, to be honest, or I can leave SQL. But what I want to do is change this to my IP, so that only I on this machine can remote in. Otherwise, you will get people trying to hack your server. So I'm going to change this to my IP. And I'm going to change this one to my IP. And then we can just type a little description here, SQL and RDP, just so when you've got a list of rules, it's easy to follow. I'm going to add another rule as well, straight away, and it's going to be HTTP for anybody, so that you can access the website, and HTTPS, because we will implement that in a future video shortly, so that we have encryption. Security group, we can call this one Fasetto Word. So the security group really is think of it almost like your firewall, but not on your Windows server. It's more on the virtual network of AWS. So if you can't get something coming out of the server, even though the firewall's turned off, it's because this already has effectively like a firewall built in. So you have to open any ports here in AWS for anything to get through to the server. And then we just click review and launch. It shows all the options we've picked, and we're just ready to click launch. And now this is how you will effectively connect to your remote desktop. You won't type a password in, you typically use a secure key. And if you haven't got one already, you can create a new key pair. So I'll create a new key pair and call this Fasetto Word, and then download key pair. And this will prompt me to save now this PEM, which is a secure private key. So I'm going to save that, and don't lose that, otherwise you can't log into your machine. You'd have to log into this and change it all again. So now click launch instance, and we just have to wait for this to launch now. Which now it's saying it's done, but it hasn't done, it's launching. So it takes a couple of minutes usually. You can view the launch log, which I don't typically do. I just go to view instances. So in here now, I will name this instance so I can find it in my list easier. So I'll click the edit button and I'll type Fasetto Word. And I'd typically give it the domain name, but we haven't chosen one yet. So I'll buy a domain name shortly and we'll link that in. So in fact, while we're waiting for this to spin up, because it's not up yet, I'm just going to go ahead and find a domain name and purchase that domain name. So to do that, I would typically use 123-reg.co.uk because I'm in the UK. And I would search for domain names here. So I would go to the search box, which is here. And I really want probably like Fasetto.word and see if there's anything like that. I've probably already purchased one that's suitable anyway. I think I've got Fasetto.chat, which I'm going to use. But this is how you would search. So we could actually have FasettoWord.com if we wanted. But I tend to like using the new extensions now. And I'm pretty sure I have Fasetto.chat, which is not technically the name of the software, but it's relevant and obvious. So I'm going to use Fasetto.chat. If you wanted to buy one though, you just click add to basket, go through a normal sales process, and at the end, you'll see me logged into this. So I'm just going to go ahead and log into my account. And well, in fact, there's no point logging into the account yet because we need to log into this to then set up the domain after. But that's how you would simply purchase a domain name first, and then we're going to link this in afterwards. So this is still initializing. So I'll just basically pause the video here and resume in a minute when this is up and running. In fact, while we're waiting for this to spin up, we can just link this IP address with the domain. That's really the only thing we're doing. So let's just take this IP address of the server that's trying to spin up. And in here, I'm just going to log in. So once you have the domain brought, you can pick your domain from this list here. And this is all the domains I own. And in the list here, I've got Fasetto.chat. So I'm going to click Fasetto.chat and then click Manage. And in anywhere you buy your domain, you would typically just look for Manage DNS is what I'm after doing here. So I'm going to click Manage DNS. And then I'm going to go in this specific one to Advanced DNS. And now here, you'll probably have a lot of items in this list. And if you're going to just set it up fresh and you're not going to do anything, I just typically delete everything. MX records are for emails. This doesn't have any emails yet, so I'm just going to delete those two. And the main one, so the main one when you type Fasetto.chat into a browser, is it's going to look for an A record. And the star and the @ are the typical two references that are the same thing really, they're basically wildcard or actual pointing to itself type of references. So this is when you type Fasetto.chat where it's going to go to. So all you want to do, if they weren't in there, say there was no A records at all, there's nothing in here, you'd want to add a type here. So there's an A record and the host name would be star, and then we paste that destination IP address in to our server and click add. And then I'm going to do the same again with an @ and it's just, some things work with just star and others work with just @ It's just generally good practice to add both, just to make sure you're covering your bases. Then the one common mistake a lot of people make is they don't add a www entry. So you can access the site, say, by Fasetto.chat, but if you typed in www.fasetto.chat, it might not load. So on top of those three, you also want to do the same for www. So all three of these now, nothing at the front and basically the website normally and www, will all now try and point to this Amazon web server. And this takes time. Sometimes there's a save button as well, but in this case there isn't. But this can take time. This can take 15, 20 minutes, 2 hours a day. It's unlikely to take more than a few hours, but it does usually take a few hours in some instances. The way we can test that is if we open command. So we just open a command prompt. You can type ping Fasetto.chat and you can check the IP it resolves to. So you can see already mine is practically instantly updated. So that is very quick. So now we can use Fasetto.chat to point to our AWS server. So in here now you can see that it's running. So we can click this Fasetto Word. The first thing we need is a password. So we can open remote desktop connection on Windows, and we can type in fasetto.word because we've linked our domain name. Otherwise, you could type in the IP address. So you could paste this directly in. So it's one or the other. Because I've done that and I've checked my PC resolves, I can type fasetto.word. So we hit that, it should attempt to connect to the server. Now, it may not fully have been resolved. The ping may have worked, but this might not fully resolve yet. So let's just see. No, so let's just paste the IP address in for the minute. I don't think that's finished fully resolving. Oh, and that's actually copied a big long name instead of just the IP address, which is really annoying. Let me copy it from down here. And there we go. So the IP address is working. The DNS, even though it shows on my machine is resolving, isn't quite yet resolving. So that's just like I say, a delay thing. So we'll try that again after. You click more choices, use different account, and username as administrator. And the password is now where we need to get it from AWS. So this will vary dependent on what provider you're using, but this is how AWS works. So we've got Fasetto Word selected. We can click connect, and it's going to ask us now to get our password here. So we click get password, and we browse for the file, and we go to downloads, I believe it's in. So with that file selected, you can see we've blurred out the private key, but you'll see a private key in here. And you click decrypt password to get your password visible. And then once you've done that, you'll be presented with the actual password. So I'm obviously not going to show that on screen. With that password in hand, we can go to here and paste the password in. And we should be able to remote desktop in. It's interesting. Login attempt failed. Maybe it's because we have to use the public DNS, not the public IP address. So let me just paste my password into a notepad a minute off screen. Copy this. I usually do this with domain names, you see, not IP addresses. So I've got a feeling the public IP is shared and this IPv4 needs this address. So cancel out of that. Maybe we've got to paste that one in instead. And then go into here, different account, administrator. Unless I just typed administrator wrong, but I don't think I did. Paste that password in, and there we go, finally. So now we're going to get a warning about that the server doesn't have HTTPS, or basically a certificate set up for remote desktoping, so it's not identifying itself. If we click view, it's just a self-signed certificate. Don't worry about that in this instance, because obviously we've just set the server up, we know it's us. In future, we should set up like I say, an actual certificate, so this is trusted, which we will do. So with this logged in, we should be presented with basically a Windows Server 2016 with SQL Server already installed and IIS installed for us. So there's one thing we will have to install, and that is the .NET Core ASP.NET hosting package, which now I believe is simply built into the .NET Core runtime when you download it. There's no separate option, you simply download it and it's bundled together. And that package is to allow IIS to work with .NET Core specifically. So on a brand new server, the first thing I do is get an internet opened up and download Firefox and install Visual Studio Code. Just so I have a few familiar, did I say Internet Explorer again? Edge is the new one, isn't it? There we go, set up now. So open up Edge, very first thing I do is type Firefox and replace Edge. I get rid of like this task view. I don't want to show touch keyboard. I don't want to show Windows Ink. I don't want to show task view. In fact, I probably should show touch keyboard just in case anything went wrong remoting into this machine. Keep that on there. Use recommended settings, okay. Download Firefox. And these are all optional steps. Obviously, this is just my preference, so that when I'm remoted into a machine for deploying websites, I have a few useful tools and I have a nice browser. But you obviously shouldn't typically just go browsing around on a web server in case things, get infected or you're giving away information, stuff like that. It's not typically good practice. Unpin from there, keep that one over there. Don't need those shortcuts. While we're waiting for Firefox to install, we should have Server Manager. We've got SQL Server Management here. So we can open that up and pin it to the taskbar because we'll need to add a user to this database. Pin Firefox to there as well. And now we'll also go to download dark background, backspace ground, dark background light text as the add-in. And I will install VS Code. And this is just to save my eyes again. This is completely optional, but I like to not have bright white in my face all the time, especially when I'm on computers for so many hours. So that's in there. And now these should be dark. Download Visual Studio Code, Windows, and save. And one thing you'll notice on the server is you'll have crazy fast internet because it's a server in the cloud, so you'll have really good upload and download speeds. Install Visual Studio Code, give me all my options. And then the only thing that is required, as I mentioned, is to actually download .NET Core runtime, not the SDK, because we're not developing on here, but we do need the runtime specifically so that we get the ASP.NET Core hosting. So ASP.NET Core / .NET Core. So you see they bundled them together now. So it's runtime and hosting bundle, which it didn't used to be. You had to used to download this separately, and that's what confused a lot of people. So we just download this package here, or whatever's the latest at the time of this video. Can launch VS Code. I think we're done with the downloads as well now. Close that. Pin the Management Studio. Keep using Firefox. Bouncing between a lot of things here, but basically I'm just setting up this server like I would a new Windows computer. Just get me some familiar stuff on here. That's that. So that's installed. VS Code's installed. Pin that to the taskbar. Download Git. We don't need to download Git. Close that. Close that. So now we have VS Code, common browser that I'm used to using. We've got SQL Server. So if we just type dot in the server name, we should have a database already, or rather the SQL Server running, but no database. So this is good for us to add a user and get a database created when we need. So I'll just minimize that. Clean the shortcut. Open up the downloads folder. We're done with VS Code now. Just quickly change my options as well. Just again, this is purely optional, but this is how I set up my computers. This is how I run. So we've installed this .NET hosting, and this will allow us to now run that published ASP.NET Core website inside of IIS, which to the point may not be installed by default because I haven't seen the server management console, which is typically in here. Maybe it's changed with Server 2016. So if IIS isn't installed, you'll get to see it installed anyway, which it doesn't look like it is. Although the search on Windows is awful in the first place, so I wouldn't necessarily expect it to show. So we don't have really anything there. So we have server managers there. So in the start menu, we'll open up Server Manager. That's now installed. Empty recycle bin, keep things clean. So also delete the downloads now we're done with it. Pin this Server Manager to the toolbar as well, the taskbar. Now you can see we've got local server, which is our machine, and this is where you should be able to configure IIS. in maybe manage. There we go. Manage and add roles and features. And it's busy on the first time you start this up. It's busy basically collecting information. So you just have to sit and wait. This usually takes maybe a minute. And this will then open up the tool to add IIS. If you're on Windows 10 instead, you just go to the start menu and type turn on. I don't think, there you go, turn on Windows features, or turn Windows features on or off. In that menu, you'll find IIS. But I won't use that menu because we've got a server manager here for Windows Service, which you typically use instead, and this manage button. So as I mentioned, this will open up in a minute. It's just that it's busy collecting all this information when you first open up. So just sit back and wait for this to pop up. So let's just try clicking this again now and add roles. And there we go. So it doesn't actually automatically re-pop up. You just have to wait till, I guess, these lists are populated, and then you can spin it up. So click next, role-based feature install, this machine, the actual machine we're on. And then this is very similar to the turn Windows features on or off. And here we just want to click IIS and then add feature and next. That's all we're bothered about. I mean, I can go back and double check, but pretty sure IIS, yep, is the only one we want. We don't need hostable web core. We don't need anything from there at all. So just the IIS. Click next, go all the way through. These are then specific options, which we don't need any of them. But if we did, we can always come back and add them. So it's okay to just simply click next and install. So now this shouldn't take too long. You'd think it'd take a while, but it doesn't usually take that long. So as soon as this is done, we'll open IIS. I think some elevator music might work well here. And there we go, so it's finished. That didn't take too long. Click OK to that. We are okay to close this now, or we can click IIS here, now it's appeared. And I believe just right click maybe, and then click Internet Information Services Manager to start it up. I can then close the manager behind. I'll now pin this to my taskbar. So now I have everything I really need to get going. So we've got IIS, which is where we'll start adding websites. We've got the server manager for adding roles. We've got the SQL Server for setting up the database, and we've got some tools that we need. So in order to set up a website, we need the website. So minimize this. So I am fairly confident now we don't need to do anything inside of AWS. We've allowed the HTTP access, and we've set up the server and it's running, and I have remoted in. So I can just close this down. I should log out. So that's that done. The domain now should also point there. I'll leave this open just in case anything goes wrong, but that should start pointing to it soon. So what we want to do is take this published folder and literally copy and go into the remote desktop, and then we're going to paste it into here. So I usually store my websites, believe it or not, simply in documents. Just go to documents on the server, create a new folder, call it websites, and then I'm just going to paste this published folder into here and let this copy over. I'm going to make a coffee while it does that. Okay, so that's copied over now, and we have a folder called published. So let's just rename this to Fasetto Word. I'm going to do .production, or you can do .live, but I think .production. And the reason for that is when we come to do a new version, what we'll have is another folder called Fasetto Word .development, or UAT for user approved testing, or whatever you want to call another folder, which is basically another version, so you can do staged releases. And then instead of simply replacing this website, you'd copy this website into the development folder, or the UAT folder, so that you have two copies. Then you'd paste your new website into this one so it goes live. If there's any issues, you'd flick between the folder in IIS, or you could simply put the new version in UAT, point it to that, test it, and if it's okay, copy it in, whichever way we want to do that, and we'll show that in the next video. So we're nearly there. One thing to do is to stop and start your IIS. Because we've installed ASP.NET Core, it does need restarting once after that install. So just make sure you start and stop IIS once, or you could have just clicked restart over here. So this is your IIS server. This is our local server. Inside here, we'll have sites, and inside here, it's got a default website. Of course, we're going to delete that. We don't want default site. Application pool is going to delete that. So we have nothing now. We have just an empty IIS. I'm going to click Add Website up here. I'm going to call this Fasetto Word. The physical path is going to point to Documents, Websites, Fasetto Word.production. And it's going to be HTTP for the moment until we do HTTPS. We're going to do the host name, Fasetto.chat, which is the domain name we've pointed to that we know we've registered, and click OK. Now, we're going to have to go to App Pools, and the one it's created for us here, we want to change from .NET CLR to no managed code, because the .NET Core hosting package that we just installed, that thing we downloaded from .NET Core, is what handles it. So make sure you change that to not managed. And then back in here, we want to add one more binding. So click on the website, click binding. There's the one we just made. Click add, and let's make one more. And this is for www.fasetto.chat. And then we click OK to that. And now the folder that we've made, the top level websites folder, it's where I'm going to put all the websites. IIS, now it's trying to host the website, needs access to that folder. By default, it doesn't have permission to our users' documents folder, because this is nothing to do with IIS. So we just right click on the websites folder, click properties, go to security and click advanced. And then in here we want to add a user. So in this user, select a principal and type IIS_IUSRS, which I believe stands for IIS something users. I'm guessing it's a shortcut for. But that's the user we need to add. We want to give it full control and click OK. And click OK again. And now you can see IIS_IUSRS has full permissions to this folder. If you don't do that, you'll get, I believe, error 501 or 504, something like that. You'll get basically an error of permission. So now with that on, we should be able to click just browse. And if the domain name's updated, it will put them. In fact, we've got a 500 error at the minute. Maybe that is the domain not resolving. Where's our IP? Let's just type localhost, because that should still work. In fact, if we were to remove to check firstly that this works, we can add the binding without, I'd leave this empty, but you'd have to delete these two. So let's just remove these two first. I'm obviously forgetting a step here as well with something. I always forget some kind of step when I'm doing IIS. Right, so that's localhost. So there we go. Localhost, start with this, and the requested page cannot be accessed because the related configuration data for the page is invalid. Okay, let's check the modules. So ASP.NET Core is not installed, even though we've installed it. Did I not install it? .NET Core download. I swear I downloaded this. Maybe I didn't install it, or maybe it's not installed right. Repair. Please restart IIS after install complete. Repair. Because it's not showing up as a module. Maybe I installed this before having IIS, maybe? Repair successfully complete. Restart. Modules, and now it's in. Okay, so important note there then, don't install, either I completely forgot installing .NET Core, which I don't think I did, or you have to install IIS first and then the package after. Otherwise, that can really confuse you. So hopefully now restarting this will make this load, which it looks like it's about to. So, not so much. I know what will have happened there though. Now we need to actually configure the ASP, or rather app settings, and set up the database, because that will be failing on the database. And we've probably got, we're going to log. Our log's probably telling us. We'll open the log with that for now. Using an in-memory repository, keys will not persist. When handle exception, login failed for ISP. So yeah, basically it's trying to log into a database and it's failing. So that's our log file giving us useful info there. Oops, open that back up again. App settings. So now we need to configure this to work with the database. So we have a database called Fasetto Word. We're going to let ASP.NET Core create that for us. But we need to either add the IIS user, or instead we'll actually add a user and password to here specifically for this. So if you don't know SQL Server connection strings, which not everybody knows them off the top of the head, just type into SQL Server connection strings, and this site connectionstrings.com will give you a list of all the connection strings, and you can search for all different kinds. So generally SQL is SQL Server, SQL Server is SQL Server, I mean, so the different versions don't typically change. So you can see here you've got a server, a database, and then this is the key info we want, the username and password. So it's basically user space ID equals and password equals. So we will go here and type user ID, and now this will be an SQL user. So we'll call this Fasetto-Word, and the password I will change afterwards for obvious reasons, but I will just put this in now as password and save that. The JWT super secret key I will change again, obviously. And the same with this, I'll import this back in. So you won't see those, but I will do those, you know, after the fact. Just reload Visual Studio a moment. So we want to go into SQL Server, go to security, and firstly actually go to SQL Server at the top and click properties. We want to make sure in security that we've got SQL Server and Windows mode, which we didn't. Enable that so we can log in with SQL users. And it says we've got to restart, so right click on the server and click restart, and then confirm we want to restart it. And then once that's done, which it now is, we can go to security logins, and we'll have SA, which is the master SQL Server login account. I'll leave that disabled. Right click on logins, click new login. I want an SQL authentication with the name Fasetto-Word, and the password is just password for now, and then obviously I'll update that. And enforce password policy, force expiration, that's all off now. The server roles is this user as a whole on the entire server, and the user mapping. So to start with, I find the simplest way to do this is to just turn it into a sysadmin, which some people might get scared away from and say that's, you should never do that, and sure, whatever. This is my server set up, I'm in control of it, and it's my code, so I'm kind of happy to do that for the moment. Then with that done, if we refresh this now, you'll notice we have no databases. But now, because Fasetto Word user's in there, and we've configured the user here, trusted connection we want to remove, by the way, because that's telling it to use a Windows user. Now we have the settings properly done, it will have permission to connect to the database. Then Entity Framework will realize there's no database and create one for us. So by simply refreshing this page, I think I have it in the right place now, where it will then spin up and create a database, and we should then see hello world if everything's gone well. If not, we'll check the logs. But I think that should be all we need to get it to, you know, connect to this database successfully. Once it's done that, we'll remove the sysadmin right. So there we go, it's hello world. Go to databases, press F5. It's now created this one. So now the important step here, very, very important, is to go back to this user, remove sysadmin, so it doesn't have access to every database. And now you can go to user mapping, specifically Fasetto Word, and it can be the DB owner of this one. which means now it can do anything it wants to that database. So that's the only permission it now has, which is what we want. So all you have to do once you've created it is go to server roles and remove it from sysadmin. Now it only has permission to its own database. And I find that's the simplest way to do that. So the database is created and it's up. We have all the tables in. There's no users yet, but that's up and running. The server's up and running there. So now we close that down. We go back into here and let's fix these bindings. Now we're happy that it's working. Change this back to fasetto.chat and add another one back in again, www.fasetto.chat. And then now if we browse based on the website, we should see, hopefully, the Hello World pop up. And again, presuming my domain name is mapped, there we go. So now the ultimate test, it's running locally on the server. We're all happy, that's fine. Empty the recycle bin. If we now minimize this and go back to our main machine here. So now if we just open up a browser, and I'm happy that's worked, so we can just ignore that. So if we go to fasetto.chat, you can see now we can access it from anywhere. So now we have the server up and running and the domain name linked. We can, I'll close this down. Well, I can leave that open for the minute. Let me open up Fasetto Word and let's spin up, let's edit the Fasetto Word and create a user. So if we open the fasetto.word and we just need to change the URL of the calls, which we have, I presume, as a local host at the minute. That was a bad thing to search for. So we've actually put it into here, which we did in the last video. So now we can just do fasetto.chat. And with no other testing, I'm kind of hoping, let's just turn on exceptions they are on. I'm kind of hoping this works. I know we still don't have the auto logout, so we should in theory get a complaint somewhere that, you know, there's the login key is invalid or something. But hopefully, if nothing's gone wrong here, this should just run and work by simply changing that to point to the live website now. So obviously we'll be pointing to a site that has nothing in there. And we now have, is this the expected failure when we load because there's no data? Successful is true, but the server response is null. Because that's kind of another thing we should actually catch. Because it's saying to get the user's profile details, the server hasn't returned that it's failed. It's actually returned no user profile. Surely that should have actually failed. Let's check our server code. So let's just open up another Visual Studio with the server. Let me just check that. We can fix it here by simply doing another check, but what I'm thinking is we would really want to throw an unauthorized exception so that we know it's a more valid response, basically. That's what we're expecting to happen, really. If you're trying to get the user's details and they don't have a profile, then you should really, you should be throwing this, error user not found. And it is not. It's actually returning somehow a user with nothing. Can't be. So, how is that possible? Let's look at the server's response. Oh, there is no response. Oh yeah, so it's thrown unauthorized. Oh, so that's worked, but the problem is successful in our check has somehow thought, oh, why isn't that doing F12? There we go. I will look into that as that's a bug because we've got unauthorized as a status code, but it's successful. Or maybe that's how it was meant to handle. We're saying it's successfully returned, which is right. We've changed what the successful means in the web call. So it's a successful call that has returned to us. It's told us that it's failed. So we need to improve our call. We want to wrap this kind of call, or we simply check here if the status code isn't equal to successful, then display potentially the status code error message, which I thought we already did, and I thought this was handled in DNA Web. But I will, do I fix that now, or do I do that in the next video? Because I can quickly open DNA Web. Let's take a look, because I'm sure that was what should have happened. I know we didn't want it throwing an exception, but we didn't want it to say it was successful either, because if it wasn't successful, we have an error message that should handle it correctly already, I believe. So if it wasn't, in fact, no, we do nothing if it failed, because this should have display. We have that thing that says display have failed, don't we? Where is that? Display if display. I know there's a display of failed. Display error if failed. Should we simply be calling this, because that's, yeah, so we have a result and we're missing this line in our code, so it's running as expected, but we haven't done this in our call to, where's the call stack? Here. So I believe the first step should probably be, this is what we're missing, and this would be load failed. Load user details failed. And at this point, we could actually use this to log out, but again, we're not going to right now. So I presume now that will work, and then we don't need a successful check in that manner, because now we will return if we're not successful. And then we can update the rest to do the same if result or dot successful. So that's the only place we seem to have not done it correctly. So let's run that again. And that is technically going to be a slight fix in the WPF series, so I'll try and remember to do that. But hopefully now it should actually display a message in OK. So now we've also got an issue with the threading of show message. So we are now calling the await UI.show message, and it's not on the UI thread. And the reason for that is this UI manager should be responsible for making sure we're on the UI thread. So for that, we should use, what do we have? We can use, I'm sure I already did dispatcher somewhere to get the current dispatcher, or we're just invoking it directly for now. Okay, we can just invoke it directly for now. So this will ensure we are on the UI thread when we invoke that action. It's wanting the result as well though. So we can use for task completion source as new task completion source, boolean, and create a task completion source. Then we also want var, what is the result? It's not a result, it's just waiting. So actually, it just wants to await the result. So we can just do, we don't return that, we just await that now. Oh. Await, async, close that off, return the tts.task, return the task once complete, and then show the dialog box flag we are done. So tts.set result. And in theory, this could deadlock. We're really best doing a try finally. Otherwise, you could have a forever locked thing here that if this call crashes, it will never set the completion. So if we do finally, all it finally does is it doesn't catch any exceptions. They'll still be thrown up, but it does, which means actually in this case the UI would crash. So it doesn't catch or do anything with them, but the finally will always run regardless of whether this throws. So a task completion source is just, we need to await a task. So this creates a task basically with a value of true or false. then we can await it here while we're still on this same callers thread. And then all we do here is spin off to the UI thread. If we're already on the UI thread, we'll be on the same thread, so it won't matter. And we should actually also check this doesn't deadlock the UI thread, which I don't believe it will. But we should double check that, because we're basically saying wait for this. And we could also say, we could also do a check that application.current.dispatcher. Where do we check if we are on the UI thread? I forget. I guess we could, well, I should check a deadlocking after. Let's run this first, because I don't think it will actually deadlock, because it will, if it's on the UI thread, then it's going to run this before it gets to there anyway. So it kind of doesn't matter. Plus it's dispatched, isn't it? So I'm pretty sure that won't hang, but we'll double check that in a minute, that won't deadlock. So that should be another mini problem fixed, and I'll just put a comment there. So there we go, server responded with unauthorized access. So now let's just confirm that this won't deadlock by calling UIManager.showMessage while we're on the UI thread, just as a quick sanity check. Whoops. So we go to the main window, data context, and we'll just do it here. So we'll just do UI manager or di.ui.showMessage new, and that's a task. Now the thing is, we can't ever wait on that. We can't actually deadlock this because it's a task. So you'd have to await it, and once you await it, it's not going to deadlock anyway. So what we could do, the only place we could do really in UI is, I guess, here. And then we can just turn this to an async event handler, and we can await it here. And we can do message equals test. Press the insert key. Ignore that it's complaining it doesn't have a async suffix. And we should get from here to here, no problem. So if you think I've done a mistake there, by the way, feel free to point it out. I'm not really in the mindset for WPF at the minute. I'm doing the server code, but I'm pretty sure that won't deadlock. There you go, fine. So yeah, I'm pretty sure that's okay. We won't end up with a deadlock on the UI there, due to the fact that you can't really await it without going on async, and as soon as you're on async, you can't be on the UI thread. Right, so back to the original thing. So we now have a run on UI thread. We now have the login talking to the real server, the one that's actually in the cloud now on our AWS. And we're correctly identifying that we can't load the user details. So the obvious thing here then is to log out. And now we should be able to log in, and login shouldn't exist because I have no user because it's talking to that database. So we now create a free account. I'm going to have angel6 contact@angel6.com, and I will create a password. Don't want anyone logging into this. I'm just going to move it off screen a minute while I make a password. And then I'm going to click the, well, it doesn't really matter. You can see the length. Well, no, I don't really want to see the length of the password. So let me just make it a nice long one so you don't know what it is. So that's a huge password. And then I click that, and it should now create an account for me and log in, which is good. I go to here, and I have no first names. Let's put a first name in. And I go here. And there we go. I should also get an email to verify my email address if SendGrid is working. And if we go back to the server, and we open the database, and we now go to the ASP.NET users, we should see my user. So there's the user I've created, and lockout is enabled but I'm not locked out. Email isn't confirmed yet. So if I now go to my emails, we will have the verify. So here you can see we've got the verify email, which is a good step. So now finally, if we click this, it should take us to the verify, and it should fully verify. So that's now an issue. So this bit doesn't work for some reason. A bad request invalid URL. So why is that invalid? Maybe we're just going to fix it with HTTP. Nope. So we have one issue, which is the verify email doesn't work for some reason. So the issue with the verify is we have a constant string where we're trying to pass in the token as part of the URL, and it just doesn't like that with it having so many special characters in. So instead, let's just delete that, the user ID and the email token, and instead we will say pass the user ID and email token as get parameters, i.e. HTTP or rather / API verify email / user ID equals and email token equals. So we're going to use that way around, standard way of passing it instead, and we will now have basically this should work. And also we probably don't need this after because it's coming in. So I'm going to also remove that because I don't think any are going to come in as URL encoded now. So we'll kind of kill that issue, or rather fix that issue for us as well. So let's just build in release mode again, publish this once more. So open folder, delete the published, spin up a new .NET publish release win x64 configuration release, and the output published. Then because I know I've only changed the API project here specifically, I can quite happily just copy over the specific changes instead of the whole framework. I wouldn't generally recommend doing this, but because I know it's the core and the server, those two files that have changed, I can literally just copy those two over. And in here we will, in order to edit these files, just click stop, go to here, paste in, and replace them. So I've just stopped the web server while I replaced them and then started it. So this is just a quick patch up. You wouldn't usually do that on a live site. You'd obviously redeploy the whole thing in a more professional way. But for quick, while no one's using this kind of redeployment, that should work. Now we need to spin back up the Fasetto Word, and we're going to have to get it to resend us a verification code in the new format. So I'll just have to change my email. So I'll change it to something that doesn't exist, and then I'll change it back so it'll refire off an email until we add a resend verification code. This is what's the issue here? We've got some kind of race condition here as well. Load async. I'll look at that in another video. I think we've got a race condition there. Let's just restart. It's either that or we've got a continual issue because the database won't have changed, will it? No. I think we just got a race condition there, so we need to fix that in another video on the WPF side. So I'll change this to contact@angel62.com, and I'll change it back to contact@angel6.com, and I should get another email this time with the new style of link in there. Okay, so here's the new one. If we hover over this time, we can see I'm a total idiot and forgot to update the other code. So if we go back to the server once more, I changed the way it comes in. I didn't change the way it gets generated. So the send email verification here, we need to change as well. From URL encode user identity to # user ID equals, and then the user ID, and then email token equals, and send it in that way. So that will generate the new way. This is in server, so we can just copy the server DLL. Do we have the publish thing still open? Yes, we do. Just republish. And then the server should update time-wise. So there we go, it's now on 18. So copy that new DLL once more. We'll get there eventually. It's been a long video. It's usually easier than this when you're not fixing bugs at the same time as deploying, but this is how it, it can go and usually does go. You start finding bugs as soon as you start deploying things. So that's up, and I think I started it again. Yep, so that's up and running again. So now if we go back to the Word application, spin it up, and edit my email once more, and get a third email verification. This one, third time lucky, should work. So yes, we know we've got the race condition. I'll just restart and wait for the first login. I thought I'd fix that load issue, but again, I'll look at that in the WPF one. Go to save, and back to here. Save, and now we should get an email. And this time I promise it'll work. So here's the email. We hover over, and we now have, as you can see, email !, user ID equals the user ID, and email token equals, and then the big long token. So fingers crossed, we open this, and of course the token's invalid. So has it now come back in with or without forward slashes, or what's gone on there? Or are we, where's the verify? Let's check the verify, or check for one I've named it correctly first. So email token is right, user ID is right, confirm token, so yeah, that should have come through fine. Maybe it's come through and it needs to be decoded here, so we can just we can spin this local server up. Maybe I should have checked my code before this, and I'll just go to change the URL in here. So I know the user ID is not correct, but I just want to see the input coming through. I'm not so much worried about the actual validation, so I want to see what's coming through. So we have that, and that is coming through fine. So to be honest, that should actually validate that that is a valid token. Oh, there's a space in there. HTTP utility.URL encode, and we'll encode both of these. So the only thing we would have changed if I hadn't to remove that was that we send them via this new way. And that should now, fourth time lucky, be a working URL. So publish again once more, get the file, which is the server still, wait for it to finish. There we go, copy that, go back to here, stop the server. At least I'm familiar with how to deploy now anyway. Copy and replace, start the server, go back to the Word client. This doesn't need to change, so we just need to change this to another email. And then back to mine. And then this fourth email, I promise, will work. Well, at least you know I didn't pre-record this video and know what I was doing beforehand. So here is hopefully the fourth and final one, which doesn't look URL encoded because it hasn't encoded the plus, but it's verified it. So, oh, maybe visually it's decoded it when I was hovering over it. So there we go, we have verified email. So if we were to now, we've logged in, we've checked, we've verified. I know we've fixed quite a few bugs along the way and it was long, but we've got that deployed. It's all in here. This is running. Let's just do one last check on the database for sanity that we actually have the user in here. And database, Fasetto Word, tables, users, show me, and there we go, email verified. So there we go, that was a longer than expected video. There was a lot of editing and bug fixing and things, but again, I like to leave these videos raw most of the time so you can see what really happens and I don't just cut out all the jargon. I obviously cut out some bits if I'm just fumbling around for 20 minutes doing nothing specific. But the general gist of important things to see, there's a bug, here's how we fix it, that type of thing, I'll leave everything in. So now we've deployed the Fasetto Word server to AWS, and any of you now can update your Fasetto Word application to simply point to fasetto.chat in the URL, and you can start signing up. Then the next thing we'll do is figure out how we handle friends and how we want to join each other, if you will, and find each other. And now with it being live, we can do that and then instantly everybody can start searching for each other and we can start then making the sending of the chat messages. So hopefully this video was useful. As always, leave comments, any questions, I'll get back to you. Let me know your thoughts, good or bad. And hopefully, you've enjoyed the video.